Okay, so here we are. The next topic is industrial sectors and de-industrialization. So, by the end of this, you need to know what the three industrial sectors are. You need to discuss the changes and reasons why changes have taken place in those sectors, and that is what de-industrialization is. Okay, so let's start off nice and easy. The primary sector. Primary sector is involved with the first stage of production, and it is limited to 5 industries. There are no more. Okay, so the primary sector covers fishing, farming, mining, extraction of raw materials, and forestry. Basically, it's where all the raw materials are produced from that are then used by every other business. Those other businesses are manufacturers, and they are in the secondary sector. The secondary sector is the second stage of production. It takes those raw materials that were made in the primary sector and turns them into the goods we want. It's manufacturing, and as I said, there are many types of manufacturers. So the farming and the fishing is obviously turned into food. You've also got farming of things like cotton, so that we can then have our clothes. You've got the mining and extraction of things like oil to make plastics and everything else. So all of those primary sector businesses pass those raw materials on to manufacturers who produce the day-to-day goods that we use. The tertiary sector is not the third stage of production, so don't assume that that just is how it flows. The tertiary sector is about providing a service, one of which is those of retailing goods. So all those goods that were made in the manufacturing secondary sector are retailed, are sold, and the tertiary sector is just part of that. But the tertiary sector covers all services, so it covers banking, travel, entertainment, all of those other things that are not covered by manufacturing. Now, all three of these sectors, have been changing over time, especially if you go back to just after the Second World War and look and see how the primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors have changed. For the primary sector, raw materials have been used up. There simply is none left. Especially in the UK, we used more and more of our resources, and we have to now get a lot of our raw materials from abroad. Secondly, machinery has placed jobs. If you go back to just after the war, there was a lot of people who were working the land, farming to produce food and everything like that. These days we buy a lot of our food from abroad. Some of the staples are still grown here, but a lot comes from abroad. And machinery means that on a farm now you can have a very small workforce that uses huge tractors and farming equipment to do the jobs of what would have once been 100, 200 men. There's foreign competition. As I've said, because we're partially using up our materials, partially because of the machinery, we're buying more from abroad. And that is usually cheaper than what we can do in this country. Now, the secondary sector has changed as well. And it is specifically the changes in the secondary sector that we refer to as deindustrialization. Okay, and that term means we have become less reliant on industry. Now, I'm going to go back to your history lessons here. You were taught about the Industrial Revolution and how that happened in Victorian times, where we had the advent of steam, and that led to all these inventions, the railways, blah blah blah, all of those things. And everyone was working in factories. That was industrialization, and that secondary manufacturing sector expanded really, really quickly over a short period of time. What's happened is those factories have closed down. We don't produce lots of goods in this country anymore, and therefore we have de-industrialized. They have closed down in a very short period of time as well, and we don't have a lot of jobs in this country that are reliant on secondary sector industries. A lot of them are now in the tertiary sector. We also have much more foreign competition and cheaper goods. That applies to the secondary sector as well. China has been the huge influence here. It can bring in loads of goods from China relatively cheaply, even when it's got to travel from the other side of the world. And the use of machinery, again, has meant that factories that are in this country are automated, or mechanized, that machines do those jobs and you just need someone to come in and turn them on and maintain them. Other than that, they do the work. So again, people aren't needed in those industries. So the tertiary sector has changed, and it's had to compensate for the changes in the other two sectors. So we've lost jobs in the primary sector, we've lost jobs in the secondary sector, so therefore the tertiary sector has grown significantly. It's had to. And these are the main reasons. Some of those jobs have increased because of the population changes. So the education sector, the health sector have grown because there are more elderly people to care for in hospitals and care homes, and there are more children that need to be taught. People have also become more wealthy, so they have more money to spend, and they spend it in travel, entertainment, leisure industries, which are tertiary sector industries. And they have more leisure time. Because of these machines, because of the larger population, we don't have to work from dusk till dawn. We do 5-6 hour days, and that leaves us with 18 or 19 hours to fill. And also customer service has become the huge thing with tertiary sector businesses. So a lot of people are employed in customer service type jobs to enable the business to please its customers. And that's it. That's all you need to know. The three different sectors, and then the three change, or the reasons for changes in those sectors. Make sure that you've made the notes as you've done before, and make sure that you go to Zondel. The industrial sectors quiz is up and running, and I will see you next week when we will look at the effect these changes have had.